I've been playing Sea of Thieves since winter of 2019, just before the pandemic. Maybe it was like the Animal Crossing release happening at the right place and at the right time, but I guess this game just kind of stuck to me like icing from a fresh donut. This game is fantastic. I put 2,100 hours into it as of writing this script, and I fucking hate it. But I'm still playing it. I've done all the major grinds, Hoarder of Barnacle Gold, Legendary 100, the Sea of Thieves, 100% in all the Tall Tales, and I'm working on the Hourglass Curses when I can, stomach it. I think I've done enough of the content to have a reasonable take on it. I love this game, and I hate it, and I'm going to talk about the good and the bad, and especially the ugly of this game. Alright, I don't want to be a shallow bitch and or do nothing but complain. Negativity is really easy to spread. We're already at a 2v1 for the sake of the classic format. I want to talk about some stuff that's kept me going in the game for well over 2,000 hours. This game is fantastic. It is one of a kind, proudly different, and with a design strategy that allows players to approach issues in a myriad of ways depending on their playstyle. I cut my teeth on games like Dishonored and Bioshock, and to see what is one of the only cases of a multiplayer immersive simulator is unreal, no pun intended. It is amazing. There's absolutely nothing like this game on the market, and Rare knows this, I'm fairly certain. For me, it makes itself a great replacement for the high-speed chaos of hit scan and projectiles that I loved Team Fortress 2 for, before it became, The team at Rare is a fantastic design strategy dubbed Tools Not Rules, or as I like to call it, Kojima moments. Basically, a Kojima moment is a moment where you're playing a game and you have an idea you want to try, like, for example, putting your plants cargo out in the middle of a storm to keep them watered, and the game makes you go, wait, someone thought of that? Because someone did, and someone coded it in and tested it, and it's clear to you that whoever made the game really, really cared about it and listened to every aspect of it. The amount of times I've gone, can't believe the devs thought of that, in my early hours was staggering, and the amount of times I've seen other new players do the exact same thing is equally staggering. And that's not going into the subtle references Rare has quietly put in all over the place, not only to older IPs, but also, in other ways. I have a great amount of respect for the level designers and the team members dedicated to putting in nods and quips all over the place. Speaking of level design, I have to give a huge shout out to the level designers. Rare has consistently been hitting it out of the park since summer of 2021 with Season 3 and The Pirate's Life Tall Tales. The art style and the detail put into every inch of the game is breathtaking, with the crown jewel of the Sea of Thieves level design, Port Merrick, leading the charge. To walk around at the outpost is impressively different to the hasty plank and sand of every other outpost in the game, but it's still homely in a way that I can't begin to explain. It's not often we get more content added to the map, obviously, but the times we do, it does actually look incredible. You have to credit them for that. Of course, this doesn't take away from the map before the level designers start going nuts. The islands are all unique and distinguishable at a glance, something very difficult in an open world game, and have their own individual charm put into them. My personal favorite islands are Lost Gold Fort with numerous secret pathways and methods of traversal, and Old Salts Atoll, the final resting place for an unknown galleon, telling a story of survival and destruction. Old Faithful Island still needs to get nuked though, just saying. The amount of ways that players are allowed to do what they want, how they want, is unbelievable. Do you want to run cargo like privateers of old? You got it. Unearth buried treasure? Over here, pal. Do you want an on-rails story to keep you invested in what happens next? Tall Tales. Do you just want to go fishing? Buy a bait crate and head to open water. I can very easily say that there are few things as peaceful as fishing in-game, except for trying to catch shadow stormfish. Now, do you want to embark on a dangerous voyage that is procedurally generated that ends in a heart-stopping finale where you besiege a stone fort protecting a gem that will allow you to enter the land of the dead? Legend of the Veil. Do you want to sink other pirates? Well, yeah, I guess you could do that too. More on that later. I think, most importantly to me, it allows players whose playstyle doesn't necessarily gel well to coexist and enjoy the same things. This game is one of the only multiplayer games that I can share with my dad, who is now 2 time zones away from me and prefers old puzzle games like Myst and Riven. Going through the Tall Tales with him has been really fun, and I'm glad I get to share that with him. It's moments like that that make this game so memorable and why I've come to love it so much. Unfortunately, there are some issues with the game that I think needs addressing. Not necessarily ruinous to the game, but things that I think require some highlighting. First and foremost, let's talk about the story. The people who write for Sea of Thieves are absolutely awful at writing stories. I'm sorry guys, but it's true, the lore is garbage. The Tall Tales are a spectrum of bad to somebody got hired out of company to do this, and quite frankly, it's frustrating to me, most notably in recent events surrounding Sea of Thieves, but also exemplified in the former adventures and similar things going forward. Now, in fairness, writing for pirates has always been difficult, and it's very hard to stray away from the all-encompassing shadow of Pirates of the Caribbean, a series so defining to pirate media that it practically weighs down every other kind of story to do with pirates like a metaphorical anchor. Yeah, it's actually kind of fit. The biggest issue for writing pirate media is that 90% of the time, pirate media boils down to we have to get that thing before the bad or worse guys do, and that has been a constant since the original Treasure Island, the novel. But how else are you to write for a group of early-age criminals, you know? That being said, I really did like Monkey Island Tall Tales, and I think the Pirate's Life Tall Tales were at least decent. Unfortunately, we have to talk about what isn't. Let's start with the adventures as an example. A while back, Rare would release these bite-sized tall tales that would further the plot of Sea of Thieves without necessarily taking away from the game at large. Players would go places and do things, and it helped flesh out the world extensively. They were also predictable and frustrating and followed a very simple pattern that the Rare devs have used for literal years. Something happens, you make things worse, you try to find something to help fix the problem, you fix the problem, and that's it. The true treasure is the friendship, you get the idea. It's okay once, it's annoying a second time, and beyond that it became contemptible. I think, overall, Rare should really look into putting someone new in charge of storytelling, or at least shake up their old formula. This stuff is really bad. I, as a player, will not get more invested if I make a problem worse. I will only be shamed for doing something in the first place. I'd go so far as to say it's disrespectful, and I get the feeling that we were very close to it happening again very recently with the lead up to Season 13 and the return of the Burning Blade. That being said, with Adventures being left in the dust, I think we need to talk about the next and more frustrating issue with Rare's development, and that's in the set and forget nature they put into some of their content. The most obvious contender for this was the arena, but we're also going to talk about sea forts, merfolk shrines and treasuries, fishing, merchant aligned quests, and the Devil's Roar. I think Rare has an issue with making content, deciding that it's good enough without putting further thought into it beyond the occasional bug fix and loot table update. A prime example of this is the Devil's Roar, the eastern segment of the map that takes place near a series of active volcanoes that can fire burning rocks at your ship, with the added benefit of better loot that earns you more. Nobody goes there because the risk is a bit too high and because it's very detached from the rest of the game, with the PvP faction having to travel a long time just to sell all their loot to the one place that will take the majority of it. Then the place looks kinda ugly. Rare has stated in the past that they see the Devil's Roar as a finished product, and as such neglect to update it with the rest of the game. The rest of the map got sea forts, the Roar didn't. The rest of the map got siren treasuries and shrines, the Roar didn't. They get no content exclusive to it, even the loot can be found in the main area of the game. There's no reason for players to add an additional risk for what is perceived as less payout. And this has routinely happened time and again for no discernible reason. It's frustrating to see a new concept get put in-game only for the team and player base to completely forget about it. I even forgot about quest boards when I was writing this, but that really galvanizes my point because I have to be talking about forgotten things really badly to even remember that it exists. Currently, the most obviously neglected feature is the dedicated PvP function dubbed Hourglass by the community. Cheaters run rampant, there is no skill-based matchmaking, and the devs seem to have once again forgotten that it even exists. More on this and my theory about it later. I want to hold out hope that Rare will eventually have a moment of clarity or another major update where they go back and flesh out forgotten parts of their game, but the team is very guilty of tunnel vision and just adding more things and looking forward rather than at what they need to fix, so my hopes are very limited. Speaking of adding new content, let's talk about the recent addition to the two new weapons, the double-barreled pistol and the throwing knives. These weapons are kind of controversial as they haven't had much effect on gameplay or fit well into the space the rest of the weapons are in currently. The throwing knives are an attempt to bridge the gap between sword and gun users quite obviously, and while they're decent, the fact is they're not great, mostly because they have some pretty bad movement glitches that make them hard to use. Still, after they've already been patched once. On the other hand, the double-barrel pistol is just bad. I'm uncertain as to what Rare was trying to do with this weapon, but it tries to be two major weapon archetypes, the charge shot and the less damage, more firing speed archetypes at the same time, and suffers because it can't really be both.
Oh yeah, well, you can use it to combo with the regular flintlock and do 100% damage in 2 shots.
You know what else can do that and with more success? The Blunder's Knight combo. One accurate shot that does 75% damage with a gun that can one-tap. Why should I ever use the double-barrel pistol, Rare?
What is your purpose here?
Finally, let's talk about server stability. If you've played Sea of Thieves, you know that the servers aren't the greatest, and they've been getting worse as of late. Personally, I get lavender bearded once every 3 days or so, and I have to reset all my Microsoft security credentials, usually when I'm about to sell or I'm in the midst of a fight. It's not good. Not bringing up the questionable hit registration detection, random crashes, DDoSes that target entire regions,
the fact that Sea of Thieves still uses a voice program from the Xbox 360 age,
and the recent addition of Easy Anti-Cheat, a notoriously bad piece of software that has likely caused me to crash more often as of late. To say that we're in a bad place is obvious. The fact that Rare can't admit it is extremely frustrating. Okay, now for the heavy topics that I think require immediate attention and discussion and go beyond the game. This has to do with Rare's actions outside and inside of game, and the overall treatment of the player base, full of young children, might I add. Let's start with the big one, the targeting of Theb. For those out of the loop, Theb is an Australian Sea of Thieves content creator known for his monotone voice and high skill. He usually sails with one of the numerous OCE region streamers, guys like Massive Sponge, Serziors, and Crud Goblin. During the initial ban wave where Rare employees snuck into private Discord servers and banned users for what they said in private servers, Theb would get banned for stream sniping. Ever since, Theb has used alternate accounts to evade bans and continue his antics. Given that Theb's already been banned once, he isn't above using exploits like the controversial 120 FOV glitch, which he stopped using, and the ladder launch, which isn't a bannable offense as publicly stated by Rare. He's also gotten some flack from sharing info from the public beta testing branch regarding some extremely controversial changes at the time. That being said, we're not here to discuss whether or not his ban was justified, as that's an entire other can of worms. Theb has been consistently banned on other accounts by Rare, leading to the suspicion that this is the act of one irate Rare developer or community manager. And while we will eventually talk about other transgressions by community managers, that's later on. Recently, the Theb story has escalated to Rare copyright striking his Twitch and YouTube channels in an attempt to stop his content. This included a video where Theb would make a statement surrounding his bans and his thoughts on the matter. As of right now, Rare has recently landed 3 community strikes on Theb's channel for over a year's worth of content, ensuring that his channel will be automatically deleted as of June 27th. The level of antipathy that Rare has for this one guy who makes almost daily content of his streams, and who gets higher stream viewers than some actually partnered streamers, is kinda petty, and reflects badly on the company as a whole. This is further proven as hypocrisy when you have partnered streamers like Happy Feets.
It was this girl here. She was, again, 17 at the time, and I was 22.
And Rare turns a blind eye to these way worse transgressions. Similarly, Nukeface, who is the North American region equivalent to Theb, has had very few of the same issues for doing the exact same things Theb has done. We've seldom getting red-bearded in comparison. Is this the way that Rare wants to be seen? Now, I'm not someone who understands the corporate structure at Rare, obviously, but there is concerning amounts of leeway and very little oversight given to their community managers, which brings me to the next person of interest, Shira, or Mop-Wielding Hedgehog, one of Rare's community managers. Shira is old, and makes no bones about this, saying they prefer to outsail, i.e. run, from fights rather than risk sinking. And while I'm not going to trash another person's way of playing an open-ended game, I am going to talk about how this community manager has been extremely damaging, not only to the game, but the overall perception of Sea of Thieves to their player base. This is someone who could be spending time banning hackers or fielding legitimate concerns with the game, but here we are. A while back, Canadian content creator LooneyTook put out a concerning series of tweets where he detailed a community manager on the Sea of Thieves beta testing branch had been deleting forum posts regarding upcoming changes to the game. These posts were almost all concerns and level-headed criticisms of the upcoming changes, which may or may not have to do with key content added in Season 12 that released to a mediocre response. This was further exacerbated by Shira's remarks on Twitter and its support tickets on the forum, where Shira would attempt to get LooneyTook to violate the beta tests branch's NDA, a bannable offense. This is a community manager who will get into arguments on Twitter about the game and over, quite frankly, extremely pathetic things for no good reason. Is this the kind of community manager Rare wants to represent their game? If you were a game developer, would you be happy if the kind of person who does this kind of stuff is the bridge between you and your player base? Which brings me to the most concerning actions of Rare as of current events, the rise of microtransactions in Sea of Thieves. We've gone from the Pirate Emporium, the microtransaction shop, having a physical place in the game and on the menu, to being a physical place in-game, a place on the menu, an ad every time you start the game, sometimes twice, and being accessible anywhere in-game. Additionally, they recently put the Storm Curse as a paid addition to the Emporium, the Storm Curse being the point of controversy. First of all, it would appear the Storm Curse was supposed to be part of a previous season's Battle Pass that was cut, as is now paired with the associated outfit in-game. Furthermore, it sets a dangerous precedent. Curses in-game are changes to your pirate overall that drastically change the appearance of him or her, and are often paired with serious and difficult grinds. To see one that you can just pay for diminishes the allure of grinding for curses, resulting in a less invested player base and fewer repeat customers. Why would you ever want to play, grind, and experience the game to the fullest when you can just buy a curse and never have to work hard for something? It sets a bad look for the future of Sea of Thieves that the microtransactions are going to be this prevalent. Finally, let's go a little conspiracy theorist and talk a bit more about something regarding the game as a whole. Rare seems to hold a deliberately anti-PvP mindset in a game where you play as a pirate who can and will take other people's treasure. From the very beginning, it took years before people realized that you could just steal people's loot whenever you liked, which led to the creation of the Reaper's Bones faction. This became a staple of the game as the dedicated PvP faction, although Reapers aren't necessarily rewarded for sinking ships, merely stealing loot. They do get a bonus for collecting the flags off of emissary ships. A flag you fly to net you extra gold at the cost of potentially being hunted. The one consolation to the idea that Reapers are supposed to be a PvP faction. Most of the time they just run away anyways. Next came the Arena, which was a dedicated PvP game mode where 5 teams would face off against each other in a sterile, enclosed setting. I played a bit in the Arena, and it's obvious that this was meant as a form of containment zone for the players who lived, breathed, and especially sweat player versus player interactions. Eventually, the Arena would devolve into a pit of toxicity, leading to voice chats being muted in the Arena. The Arena would continue to be neglected until Rare made the decision to remove the game mode entirely, citing that the majority of their player reports came from this section of the game, false or otherwise. And now we're on to Hourglass, which has done the exact same thing. Rare's made it, given everyone some shiny rewards at the end, and walked away without a second glance. Eventually, I think Hourglass will get shut down too for the exact same reasons. The fact is, Rare wants as little to do with an incredibly integral part of the game as possible, and it's well documented through their mishandling and neglect of PvP game modes, the banning of content creators who are deep in the PvP scene, and the apathy towards a group of people who are trying to play the game in the way they want, an ideology that Sea of Thieves is sold on, and I personally bought in on. So, I don't like giving problems without at least potential solutions, so I want to talk a little bit about what I think Sea of Thieves needs to improve. First and foremost, Sea of Thieves needs to end support for the Xbox One, or make separate servers for legacy platforms. A little bit out of left field, I know, but bear with me. The Xbox One is incredibly outdated, and is hindering the game extensively in many forms, including server performance and stability to an intolerable degree. Now, while I've played TF2 for a long time, and I know the pain of hit registration ruining perfectly good fights, the setback is serious, and it's actively leading to the degradation of the game. Furthermore, I think Rare needs to consolidate and branch out on the content they currently have before working on expanding the game further. The long-awaited Hunter's Call update, more content and motivation to spend time on treasuries, C4 late-stage Hourglass after level 200, a Devil's Roar update, just more reasons to play the features of the game we already have in general would benefit it greatly. I hate to draw parallels, but Rainbow Six Siege's Operation Health is a prime example of what Sea of Thieves needs. Consolidation should be the development path for the next few updates, even if the community whines about it. The community will always whine. This is not something that should sway a game developer's opinion on their game to this degree. I am saying this in the nicest way possible when I say the developers at Rare need to grow some backbone. And at last, I think Rare needs to take a serious look at the way that they moderate for their game, and where their priorities are when it comes to dealing with problem users and hackers. This game continues to suffer day in, day out from hackers, some of which also live stream and create content completely unhindered. I'm not saying Rare should break out the leather greatcoats and the jack boots and the hats with skulls on them or anything, but they need consistency and fairness. The sea calls to us all, after all. And if that means you need to give the boot to employees who let their personal biases get in the way of their work, then maybe it should have already happened. I have nothing to say about microtransactions that isn't widely agreed upon by the community at this point. You know it and I know it. A long time ago, I watched one of my favorite video games effectively die. A game I loved, grew up with, laughed, raged, cried at, and you get the idea. I'm watching it happen again, and it scares me. The state of this game is concerning, and it seems to be getting worse. With everything that has happened in the previous months and the dry spell of content worth investing in on the player side, I have been losing interest very steadily, which is a sentiment I am seeing shared around quite often. It's not that the game is dying, it's more akin to a relative slowly degrading due to dementia. Sure, Grandpa's still there, but the thing that made him Grandpa is gone. He's forgotten who he is. All I have left is half of a memory I shared with someone who's just kinda not there. I love this game. I hate this game. And I'm running out of reasons to play it now. And that's horrible.